All right,
Lori?
it's recording.
All right, perfect. All right, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We know that it's a Friday and you're tired, so we really appreciate you being here with us. This course is all about Google Classroom, and Dr. Shaw, thank you so much for privately messaging me. I did make an error on Google Classroom. That is not how you spell classroom. But today we are going to just have an overview, and we're going to learn how to actually create an assignment in Google Classroom. Nancy yesterday gave some basics and got us started. I am going to go over just a few of those things today, just in case anyone missed that, and then we'll get into the meat of actually creating assignments for our learners. My name is Misty Trevino. I'm going to show myself. I am a digital learning consultant with Region 10, and Nancy and Lori are my co-hosts and co-workers today. They are going to be handling the chat, interrupting me if I need to stop for a second, and helping me answer questions. If you have attended some of our webinars, we've talked about really making a shift to the mindset of transformative learning conditions. And we have a conference that we were planning that unfortunately got canceled due to the current situation. But our tagline was lead from where you are, and we thought that was so appropriate for what's going on right now. Everybody is leading from a different place, but we're all coming together to truly lead and make things happen for our students. This is our amazing digital learning team. Again, Nancy is with us today as a co-host, as well as Lori. So in doing a webinar earlier this week, I learned a few things about myself. Number one is that I say about 10,000 times. And two, I talk really, really fast. And so it takes a lot from my brain to have to slow my words down. So I'm going to try something new today. I actually created a series of very short videos, and I'm going to play each video and then pause for questions. The good thing about this is that all of these videos, you will have access to all of these videos. So you can go back and rewatch the videos that you need to and skip over the ones that you don't. Before we get into this, I would like to share a suggestion. I would love for you to create today. If you don't feel comfortable with that, please feel free to just watch, but I do think it would be beneficial for you to follow along with me. So a suggestion would be to open a second tab for Google Classroom. Again, not Flipgrid, Google Classroom. Sorry for that mistake. To do this, you can click on this icon. You can press escape to get out of this full screen. But once you do that, you should have Zoom on one tab and then Google Classroom on another tab.
I'm not touching it.
I'm going to give you just a second to do this part. Are there any questions in the chat so far, Nancy? Is anyone?
I'm not, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm reading right now.
I'm gonna try to jump in here.
Yeah. So the video from the beginners training, Misty, did you tell me that that is the one that is already uploaded?
It is, and I'm gonna go over some of that stuff today as well.
Okay. Yes, so on the schedule, that is probably the document that helped you find us today. There are links to the videos from Wednesday and Thursday, the ones that have been captioned, and I will put that link to the schedule in the chat here as well.
Okay, so I don't hear anybody saying they can't open a new tab, so I'm going to go ahead and go back.
And Virginia, it's fine for you to use a Google Classroom that you have already set up.
I just realized that I did not add the link to my slides, but I will make sure I add that. Once you get that, on slide 4, you are going to click this image, maybe. Okay, let me get out of here. I will make sure that I link that correctly. You're going to click that image and it's going to take you to a Google site with all of our videos for today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play each video. I do show you how much time each video would take you to learn that section, and then I'm going to pause. So the first thing I would love for you to do, this is going to save you some time later, is I would love for you to create a class in Google Classroom. This is going to take about 2 minutes. So I'm going to start this first video. We are going to go through step 1 of how to create your own Google Classroom. Educators, if you are creating a class for your students, please make sure that you are in your school assigned Gmail account. If you are creating a Google Classroom for anybody other than students, it's usually best if you use a personal Gmail account. If you are using Chrome, you should see your Google screen. To access Google Classroom, click on the waffle in the top right corner and scroll until you see Google Classroom. You can click here to be taken directly to Google Classroom, or you can open a new tab, and if you type in classroom.google.com, it will take you directly to Google Classroom as well. To create your first class, click on the plus sign in the top right corner. Here, you can either join someone else's class or you can create your own class. Today, we're going to create our own class. I am creating this class using a personal account, and Google does want to make sure that we know if we are creating a classroom at school with students that we use our G Suite for Education account. Since I am not creating this account for students, I'm going to acknowledge that I understand the above notice and click continue. Now I am going to name my class. I'm going to name this R10 Remote Learning. If you teach multiple sections, you can put the section number, the subject, and the room, but it's not required. Then I'm going to click Create. And you've done it. You've created your first Google Classroom class. Okay, for those of you
So,
following
Misty, there's
along,
a
how are
question
you
about
feeling?
Misty. There is a question about finding the tab to open. So, just as a reminder, you'll need to minimize your Zoom window and then click the plus sign in the Chrome browser, which is going to be just to the right of whatever your most open tabs are. And then that's how you get to create, to click to open the new tab. And the question is there a link to the slides? That will be provided at the end of this session as well.
Yes.
Oh, opening a new window and watching side by side is a great idea, Michelle. A lot of people find that challenging, but if that is something that is available to you, that's also a really good idea.
Yes, and we use an extension, but you can also just pull your tabs apart and create a double window if you resize. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and go on to the next video. So in this video, we're just going to take a very quick tour of Google Classroom so that you're familiar with the features. Now that you have created a class in Google Classroom, let's take a quick tour. The first thing you notice is the header and the title of your class. And right beneath the title, you'll see the class code. The class code is what you will give to students and share with students if you want them to join your class without you having to manually enter them. If you click here, you can display the code so that students have a better view if you want to display this on a screen, or if you are in a face-to-face setting with students and you would like to make it clearer for them to see. Next, on the left side, this is where upcoming assignments will be posted as a reminder for students. If you look at the top, you'll see that we have several different tabs. The stream is where you will see a flow of things that you have posted. This gives you the option to quickly share something with your class. If you have multiple classes, you can choose which class you want the assignment to go to. You also have the option to send an assignment to all students or just students that you choose. Here you can also very quickly add an assignment, and we will get into this part a little bit deeper in another video. If we look at our tabs back at the top, the next tab we are going to look at is the classwork page. Here you can create assignments for your class. There are different types of assignments that you can create, and you can also create topics. The classwork page is a great place for students to go to because unlike the stream here, the classwork page will organize your assignments in the way that you've intended. Next, if you click on the People tab, you can see which teachers are in your classroom. If you've chosen to invite teachers to co-teach, or maybe you have students who have special accommodations or work with another teacher, this would be the place where you could see which teachers you've invited. Here you can also see all of the students in your classroom, and again, it gives you the invite code here. And then the last tab is grades. On the grades page, you will be able to see the grade book for your classroom. Okay, I don't see any questions in the chat. The one question I did see was answered, so I'm going to go to the third video, which is general settings. This is very important to view and change and alter before you actually start creating assignments. If you've gotten this far with me, you have created a class in Google Classroom and you've taken a brief tour of Google Classroom. What I want to do next, before we actually start creating any assignments, it's really important that we look at the settings. So if you click in the top right corner and click on the gear icon, it will take you to the class settings page. The first thing you'll see is your class details. So you'll see your class name, class description, section, room, and subject if you chose to fill those out, but they were not required. Next, we're going to look at some of the general settings, and this is what's really important to begin with. First, we've talked about the class code. Here you'll see a class code is automatically generated when you create a Google Classroom account. But the cool thing about this is that you can reset your class code. Now, this is why it's important for us to look at the settings before we actually invite any students, because we may need to reset a code. And if you're wondering why we might need to reset a code, it's because sometimes the auto-generated code has ambiguous characters, meaning we might have an L that looks like a 1. So if you have a character like that that's hard to identify and you share that with students, more than likely you're going to get lots of messages that say they are not able to join for some reason. So if you see a character that might be confusing, you can choose to reset your code. And then share a more user-friendly code. So this one is UYAMVB5, and that might cause a little less confusion for your learners. Next, this is something that I really want to emphasize. When we are starting an online learning environment, it's really important for us to establish routines and expectations for our learners. Something we want our learners to do is engage with each other, but before that takes place, we have to set expectations for our students and make it clear what's appropriate and not appropriate. So on the stream, we want to change the setting from students can post and comment to only teachers can post or comment. Now, you do not have to keep it this way. I would suggest starting with this until you establish those routines and procedures and expectations. Once you feel comfortable and once you've set boundaries and expectations, then you can change it to either students can only comment on things that you've posted, or you can allow students to post and comment. Please keep in mind that you can switch between these at any time. Next, on the classwork, on the stream, you have options as to what shows or what is hidden. And then the next thing is the grading options. If you plan on using Google Classroom as a digital grade book, these are very important to look at before you start assigning assignments. Now, a lot of the times, the upper grades have different grade categories and they are weighted. And so you might want to choose weighted by category and then enter in your categories. So when I was teaching, reading was a category, and then writing was a separate category. You might have quizzes as test and test as a category as well. And so you can adjust this to fit your needs. I would suggest you mirroring your school or district's grading policy so that if you do have to transfer grades to a learning management system, they are accurately calculated in Google Classroom. If you are unsure of the overall grading calculation, you can click here to learn more. So we've gone over a brief overview of the class settings. You are now ready to create your first assignment. Okay, so that was a brief overview. I will pause for just a second to take any questions. I know that a few people were asking about muting students, so thank you, Cheryl, for answering that question. Rebecca, you're using no overall grade. That's a great point. You can have assignments ungraded, and that will be shown in just a second. Randy, I'm going to go ahead and move on, but you will have access to all of these videos, and so you can click on the general settings video, which is about 2 minutes long, and watch that again.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Do we have different grades? I think you were talking about that, but I'm not sure, like for little ones, kindergarten, my case, like do we have E for excellent, S, and do we work with that in here, or is just like a different format for each district, or you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's a good question. Google Classroom is your district usually has their own grading or learning management system. This is for districts who maybe don't have a learning management system but still want to track student grades. I know that you can download like a file and upload it to your learning management system. But I don't believe that we have the letter grades in Google Classroom. And somebody please correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay, and if I could pop in with the answer to a couple of questions.
Sure.
Jose is asking about an expiration date on the code that some students texted that they cannot enter. If you happen to change the code, then the previous code would not work. But as Misty's video explained, if there's an ambiguous character in the code, it could be that they're typing it incorrectly, but it does not typically expire. And once once a student is in there, they never have to use that code again. They're just in there until they are removed by you. So a way that students cannot see the names of other students in the class, the only thing that they would see would be the names of the students, which they would likely know anyway. They would not get any other information about what that student is doing or a grade or an assignment or anything. So enrolled students will not be withdrawn, Jose, unless you remove them from the class.
Yes, and Jose, some of your students might not be able to get in if they are trying to log in to an account that's not their school account. So if you have created a Google Classroom under your school account, they have to have the same domain in order to enter into your classroom. Right now, I think the problem is that students are logging in from different devices and maybe their parents' Gmail. And if they're trying to do that, it will show that the class doesn't exist. So you have to be on the same domain. Can I enter grades, or does it have to be from a Google worksheet? Can you elaborate on that a little bit? I can say you do not have to put grades in here. It's optional.
And Heather, I see what you're saying about the special education students because the privacy of the other students in the classroom. It is possible to create like a separate Google Classroom for each individual student, but you would not need to work very hard to assign the same work or variations of the work to those students once the classrooms are created. So hopefully if you're a special education teacher, you have a small enough number of students that it wouldn't be prohibitive to think about making an individual classroom for each student.
Hell no.
Does that make sense?
This question about getting notifications for another teacher's Google Classroom, they have to change their notification settings. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and move on to the other video. We have 3 more to go. This one is showing you the difference between stream and classwork. This is really important because this is where some teachers get confused and students get confused as well. So far, we have created our own Google Classroom. We have taken a tour of Google Classroom, and we have viewed the general class settings. Now we are almost ready to start communicating with our students and assigning instructional material. The most important thing in this section of the videos is to understand the difference between the Stream tab and the Classwork tab. Now, the Stream tab has an option for you to share something very quickly with your learners. This is meant to be shared as announcements or maybe reminders. You are also able to share instructional materials like websites or anything from your Google Drive or YouTube. Now, I want to show you the difference between the Stream page and the Classwork page. Right now, if you post something to the Stream, it will post your announcements in chronological order. On the Classwork page, you have the option to organize the work you assign. Now, please be mindful that if you are creating assignments from the Classwork page, they will show up on the Stream. But if you create a quick announcement on the stream, it will not show up in the classwork tab. The stream tab is meant to simplify the view, and the classwork tab is more of an organized view that gives your students some structure. Now, I would like to go back to the settings to explore the general settings just a little bit deeper. Right now, you can change how the classwork on the stream looks. When you create a Google Classroom, the default is that it shows condensed notifications. So right now, it is on the condensed notifications setting. And on the stream, you will notice that I have an announcement that I created from this quick box on the stream page. And you can also see an assignment that I have assigned my learners. If I go back to the settings, I might want to change this. Depending on your organizational structure, you might want to hide all notifications. What that means is that it will hide all of the classwork assignments you post and just show the announcements. Now, if you do that, keep in mind that all assignments will show up on this classwork page, but they will not show up on the stream. I think this is an instructional decision that you'll have to make. Do you want to use the stream for announcements only and reminders only? Or do you want a quick view? Do you want to see your announcements and your assignments all on your stream? Now, the other setting, if you go back to the gear and you go to the classwork on the stream, you can show attachment and details. So if I choose that option, when I go back to the stream, it will again show my announcements and reminders as well as the classwork. Now this option gives you a little deeper view. So instead of the condensed notification, students will get a full notification with clickable links. This option allows for students to not click as many times and have a full view. Also, teachers can, at a glance, see how many students have turned the assignment in, when the due date is, and quickly access links. So in understanding the difference between the Stream tab and the Classwork tab, you are on your way to creating your first instructional assignment. So far, we have created our own Google Classroom. We have taken a tour of Google Classroom, and we have viewed the general class settings.
Let me fix that.
Misty, I'm having a hard time unmuting you. Can you unmute yourself? I muted everyone again, and for some reason I can't unmute you now.
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that.
No, that's okay. Any questions about that? I know that that's a confusing part for teachers. Okay, so now we are actually going to organize the classwork page, and then the last part we will create an assignment. Educators, before we actually begin creating our first assignment, we want to create an organizational structure on the classwork page. Before we head over to the classwork page, just as a reminder, we are viewing the screen from the stream view. The stream view is where announcements and reminders, maybe even classwork, depending on your settings, will show in chronological order. So I'm going to head over to the classwork page, and I want to start building an organizational structure. This is going to save me lots of time when I'm creating assignments, and it's going to make it easy for students to view and find
their instructional materials. I've actually already started an organizational structure. I have weeks here. I'm going to delete this one. But you can organize your classwork page by week. You can organize it by unit, or any other way that fits your instructional needs. To organize this page, Google Classroom has created topics. So I'm going to click Create and then scroll all the way down to Topic. And I want to add a week 2 to my topics. It does add the topic to the very top, but I can click and drag week 2 below week 1. And right now, this is a good organizational shell for me to start actually creating assignments. Before we create assignments, I want to give another tip on building out the shell of your classwork page. I would say a good tip is to create class material. So what this does is it puts the material above my topics so that it's easily viewable for students. And this is beneficial because these are things that I might want them to view or access often, but they aren't necessarily part of the assignment. So for example, I may want to have a material, and I can add a description. I can add files from my Google Drive. I can add links. I can add files that are saved to my computer, or I can add YouTube videos. Now here, I might want to add a syllabus that I've saved to my Google Drive, and I want to add it to my R10 remote learning class. I do want all students to view it, and I do not want to assign it to a topic. So in doing that, it is going to post this material to the very top of the classwork page. Another suggestion would be to create more material. Right now, I think in the transition to remote learning, we are all concerned about the social and emotional well-being of our students. And so you might want to create material titled Social Connections. I think here I might click Add and then add a link to a Flipgrid I've created where students can share and I can respond. So at least I'm seeing their face maybe once a week or even daily if I choose. Again, I'm not going to choose a topic. And when I post, because I did not choose a topic, it is going to pin that material to the very top of my classwork page. Another idea would be to create a question and answer section for your students. Again, especially for the transition into remote learning, we are in a position where we may not see our students every day face to face, but we still want to be communicating with them and responding to their needs. And so again, this might be a place where I add a link to Flipgrid specifically for question and answers. Once I've done that, again, I'm going to make sure that I have the right class chosen. I might want to add this to my Flipgrid class as well. I want all students to see it, and I do not want to assign it to a topic because I want it to be pinned to the top of my classwork page. You are admin, a coach, somebody who delivers professional development, some of your material may be a Google form that your participants fill out where upon completing the form, they receive a certificate. So right now we have a good shell, a good place that's organized, and we are ready to begin creating our assignments. Doing this on the front end is going to save you lots of time when you actually start creating your assignments. Okay, I was trying to answer questions as you were watching the video. Did y'all see any questions that I missed? I feel like I missed one.
So I saw one about moving it to the organizational system. I think maybe that is referring to the labels, or what do they call it, topics. So yes, you can assign a topic retroactively. That is very possible to do. Ed Puzzle, that's a whole other class. I believe that you can change a due date for certain students. You might need to, I don't know. I don't want to say that out loud because I may be wrong about that. And the other thing on the YouTube videos, sometimes the management in the Google console allows a teacher to assign only specific videos. And if that is managed by your admin, it's possible that that video would be the only one that they would be able to see, and they would not be able to go to other videos once that video is over. You know, it's possible that they would just open a new tab and do that anyway, I guess, but.
Dr. Shaw, you can delete assignments. Can you hide assignments, Nancy?
I don't know. I know a lot of people like to leave the assignments up, and especially if they're working with older students, so that they have a chance to review those assignments.
And I think, Dr. Shaw, that might be where you organize your stream versus your classwork. Your classwork might be where you see all of the assignments, and you can rearrange the topics so that the most current topic is at the top and the others fall below.
So there's a question about how did you add Flipgrid in the for area in the drop down. So Misty had a class titled Flipgrid, and that's why that Flipgrid was showing there. So when you have additional classes, all of those will show in that drop down menu.
Okay, I am going to go ahead and show the next video. It will answer some of the questions that you have. And this is how to actually create an assignment. Educators, if you've made it to this point, you are ready to create your first assignment in Google Classroom. Right now, we are viewing Google Classroom from the stream view, and this is where you can see announcements and reminders, maybe even classwork, depending on your settings, in chronological order. I want to head over to the classwork page so that I can actually create my assignment. I do want to draw your attention to our organizational structure of the classwork page. We have organized our classwork page into weeks, and we do have instructional material pinned to the top of the classwork page. I am going to go ahead and click on create, and for this section we are just going to look at the first option, which is just a general assignment. I am going to title this video, and I'd like to start here because I've gotten a lot of requests and questions about how to upload either a screencast or a video to Google Classroom. And so I'd like to show you some of those options. Once I've titled my assignment, I am going to add instructions. And best practices are to add clear, concise instructions to help our students be successful. And this is whether students are in a remote or online or blended learning or even a face-to-face learning environment. An easy way to provide clear and concise instructions that are easy for our learners to read is if we add emojis. I'm on a Mac, and so if I press Control Command Space, that will allow my emoji keyboard to pop up. If you are not on a Mac, you will need to look up the keyboard shortcut for your device. So I want to ask my students to read a passage first. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on Add, and I want to add a passage from my Google Drive. So I'm going to click Google Drive, and I'm going to click on the document that I would like for them to read. I'm going to click Add, and once I do that, because I've added a file from my Google Drive, it is going to ask me if students can, or it's going to give me the option for students to view the file, for students to edit the file, or I might want to make a copy for each student. In this case, I only want students to view the file, so I'm going to keep this as is. Next, I'm going to bring up my emoji keyboard, and I am going to ask my learners to watch a video. I'm going to click the Add Paperclip again, and you have several different options for adding videos. Lots of people have asked me how to add a screencast to Google Classroom. I will not get into that in this video, but do know that when you are using screencasting resources like Screencastify or Loom, it gives you an option to download the video either to your computer. In some cases, you can add the video to your Google Classroom like you can with Screencastify. You might have a link to a video that you want to add, or you might want to add a video directly from YouTube. So I'm going to search Reading Rainbow. You can search for Khan Academy videos. You can search for subjects or different topics. You can search for specific videos if you know what you're looking for. And then I'm going to click search. At this point, I'm not sure which video, which Reading Rainbow video I want to use, but I see one that grabs my attention, and I'm going to click Add. Next, I want to have students respond to a journal prompt. So I'm going to add a picture of a computer, and I want them to respond to a journal prompt. Now for this one, I have not created a journal for my students. So, and they don't have one yet. So I'm going to click on create, and I'm just going to very quickly create a Google Doc. So I'm going to title my Google Doc Journal. And I'm going to enter in the prompt that I would like for them to respond to. Once I've done that, I'm going to go back to Google Classroom. And now, instead of students just viewing the file, I want to make sure that I make a copy for each student. If I choose students can edit a file, that means all of the students in my class will be working on one document. That is appropriate for some assignments. For this assignment, I just want them independently reflecting, and so I want to make a copy for each student. Please be aware that when you choose this option and you go to make changes on your original document, students will not see those changes, because once you click on make a copy for each student, it makes a copy of that and places that in their own Google Drive folder. And that is something we will get to in another video. Now that I've done that, I want to click on 4 I am going to assign this to my R10 remote learning class. And if I was a teacher who taught science for 4 periods, I might want to go ahead and assign this to all of my other classes as well. I can choose who gets the assignment. So for this assignment, I want all students to receive this assignment. But if you would like to differentiate or provide individualized support or instruction, you can uncheck all students and you can choose who you give the assignment to. Know that when you do assign something to one or several students, the entire class cannot see that you've sent them this separate assignment. I can choose to have it graded or ungraded, and I can choose my due date if I want to provide that. You can also provide a time. Next, now this is important and this is going to save you some time. You can choose where you want this to go. So I want to put this in week 1, but say that I did not have time to create all of my topics and I needed to add this to week 3, I can create a topic here. For now, I'm going to choose week 1. And Google Classroom has a rubric feature. I won't get into this, but you can create a rubric if you choose. I am ready to assign. And you can see that that assignment went directly under week 1. If I go to my stream, my settings are set to where I can see classwork and I can see the detailed information. And so now my stream looks different because, again, it's in chronological order and it has now shown the latest assignment that I've posted. Okay, how's everyone doing? Nancy?
So I think we're doing good. There was one question about adding their own copy, and I do believe that it's true that a student would be able to add their own Google Doc without it having to originate from a copy that the teacher pushed out to the students. Do you know that if that's true, Misty?
I don't. Can you write that down and we can double check?
I will try to do that. I'm looking, do both versions of a differentiated assignment show up in the stream? No, the student, it will show up in your stream, but maybe that's not true. Anyway, the students will not know that they are getting a different assignment from the other students, if that's what you're asking. And
yes, and I believe when you send it to students directly, it does not show up in the stream. It is, if you send them to YouTube, I know that there used to be a link where you could limit pop-ups, but I'm not sure what that is at this point. The way I did it, they will see the pop-ups and they can go on, they can watch videos I think that's what some people were asking.
Ladies,
yes.
there is a way for the students to make a copy of anything that is pushed out through Google Classroom. They can just go to File, make a copy.
Thank you for sharing.
Sure.
And I also, that reminds me, somebody asked if I needed to give students viewing or editing rights for the video. That option is only available when you are sharing something from your Google Drive. Any other questions?
Yes, I have a question.
Yes.
Can you create topics like by subject and then subtopics by week?
is a great question. I don't
Yeah,
think
I think that you might be able to assign topics to more than one thing, but I don't think you can have a thing have more than one topic. Is that true? And I'm not even sure if that answers your question, but
I think you can do topics, but I don't believe you can do subtopics.
Ladies, can I explain what we did for our campus?
Yes,
Sure.
Michelle, please share.
We teach writing, reading, and social studies in one class. So what I did is I made topics for writing, social studies, vocabulary, but the assignments are labeled vocabulary, words, week such and such, vocabulary crossword for week such and such. And then when we do the next week, I've labeled it vocabulary next week, vocabulary next date. So that my students can see this is what we're doing for this week, for next week, but it's broken down for reading, writing, etc. Does that help?
Yes, totally. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you for sharing that.
okay, can I, real quick, I know we're coming to the end, but the read aloud video, yeah, so if you posted that on, or if you recorded that on your iPhone, number one, it's going to be probably too long to upload. And number two, you really need to check the copyright requirements of either the author or the publisher. And definitely, I would say do not post it on YouTube. That's a big copyright violation. There are some things that publishers are doing right now to allow teachers to read books aloud. But you really need to double check to make sure you're not in violation of copyright. Another question about how to do office hours, and I would highly recommend using Zoom for that. That's what we're using here. And right now, Zoom is offering education free all access for teachers and through the end of June, I believe.
Another question, if you put a date on an assignment, can students submit after that date? They can submit. It will just say, it will just show on their screen that it's late. I don't know if that's the right word either, but yes, they can. Also, can a video be converted to an MP4 file? You can. It does give you an option to add from a file, the paperclip. So that gives you the option to upload something from your computer. So that would be an option as well. Okay, there are lots of questions coming in. I do want you to know that I am going to add more videos. This covered the very basics. I'm going to do a section on the student view and what they see. So those will be up maybe within the next couple of weeks. Please email me if you have any questions. Nancy, can you please put my email in the chat?
Yes, ma'am.
And while you're doing that, I'm just going to go ahead and close up real quick. We do want you to know that we're in this together and we are here to help you if you need any support. Did I add a link to this? I'm going to just go ahead and copy the long link to these slides and post it in the chat so that you have that as well as the videos. I will also post it on the schedule that's floating around. So this is the link to the slides, and on slide 4, I believe, that is where you can get the videos. So on
Misty, do you have a link to the form where people can submit to get their attendance for today?
Oh, yes. And I sent that privately to someone, so let me make sure I send that.
Okay. I think I just put it, I hope that I put the right thing in the chat. It's bit.ly/attend-R10 remote. Is that correct?
Yes, and let me go ahead and get there. All right, thank you so much for joining us. I am going to go ahead and post the link so that you can receive your attendance. And again, please let us know if you need any additional support.
And we just want to mention also, be sure you type in your email address correctly, no typos, because Catherine's having to field a lot of typos and trying to figure out email addresses for folks who have submitted attendance. Thanks, y'all. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.
All right, thank you.